Hello there and welcome. In the previous episode we created the leaderboard scene, so now we can fetch data from the database and display it over here, so we are going to see the top 10 users with the highest score. At this point in the series, we're basically done with most of the functionality of the app. Now of course, you may want more advanced features, you may want things that we did not cover in this tutorial, but if you want something specific, please let me know in the comment section and I will create an episode when the series is done. So in this episode, we're going to take care of the sounds. In order to add sounds into our application, we're going to create some kind of sound manager, and we're going to do this in the main menu scene. Because this is the first scene that is going to be activated, and we want to activate the singleton in this scene, and then it will simply be carried to all the other scenes, and we're not going to destroy it. So we create a sound manager, empty object, sound manager, and we're going to create a script with the same name. Now we want to make this into a singleton, so we're going to delete all of this and we're going to open our UI manager, which is also a singleton, and we're going to copy this part. You can have this region over here. So we have the actual instance declaration and we also have the awake method. We're going to copy this and we're going to paste it inside. We also need to rename the instance, so we simply name it Sound Manager. And over here, we want to do something different. After this is done, after we check if this is the only instance, we want to make sure it will not be destroyed when we move to another scene. So we add don't destroy on load, and we're going to take the game object or the instance, it doesn't really matter. The important part is that this object is not going to be destroyed when we move to a different scene. Now, because we have this region over here, we can collapse it. So this will be for the singleton, and now we can add the rest of the code. So I'm going to add a bunch of audio clip references. We're not going to have a lot of sounds in this application. We're going to have some simple effects. We're going to have some background music, and that's all. We also want to have two audio sources, and these are basically the channels that we use to play the different sounds. We are going to have one audio source for the background music and one for all the different effects. Now we want to create a method that is going to play the background music, so we're going to be able to send parameters into it and basically call it from other scripts in our project, again because it's a singleton. So we're going to have this method that is going to receive a clip to play, and we can also control the volume. If we don't provide it with a volume, it will be the default volume, which is 1, which is 100%. But if you want to fine-tune this exact instance, then you can simply send another volume. You can do 0.5 if you want to have 50% of the volume, or you can set whatever you want. Then we're going to check if the audio source is not playing, then we're going to play the clip. We're going to set the clip to be the clip of the source. We're going to set the volume. We're going to set looping to true because it's a background music, so we want it to keep looping, and we're going to play it. So it's going to keep playing until we say otherwise. Now we also want to have a method to stop the background music. So when we call this method, it will simply stop playing this source, and it doesn't matter which clip it's playing, it will simply stop playing the source. So for example, when we start the game in the main menu, we can play this menu music, but then when we start a new game, we can stop this channel, so it will stop the main music and it will start the in-game music, right? We're going to call this again, this time with the in-game music. So these two clips will always play on this background music source. On the other hand, these effects will play on this effect source, okay? And again, they're not going to be played together, or maybe they will, but we're going to use a method that will simply play them once. so it doesn't really matter if they play together or not. It will simply happen one after the other. So we're going to have a method to play these different sounds. Now we can create some kind of generic method like this that will receive a clip, and then we're going to call it in different places. But because we don't have a lot of different sounds in this application, we can simply create a method for each type of sound, and we can customize them if we want, so we don't need to be too generic. It's a good idea to always be generic, but sometimes you don't really need it. So we're going to have 4 methods, and each method will play one of these sounds. And this will be much easier to actually call from our scripts instead of calling the generic method and then providing the clip and then providing other information. So we're going to do this, public. And again, if you want to make a generic method, then you can do it. I just like to do it this way when I don't have too many sounds. And we're going to copy this. So we have 4 of these methods, and each one will play a different sound. Of course, we're going to rename them. And now we're simply going to take our effect source and we're going to use it to play the different clips. Okay, so very simple. We have a method for each effect, and each effect will take our source and will use this play one shot, and this simply plays the audio clip one time, and that's it. It's very simple, and we provide the clip. So now we don't have to do all of this, and we don't need to reference the entire instance. We can simply call this method. So it's much easier. And of course, if you want to add more information, you can add custom information for different sounds. Maybe you want to change the duration, maybe you want to add some other things, but we're going to keep it simple. Now we're going to save this script and go back to Unity. And as we can see, all of this data was added into the sound manager. So now we need to add all of the different clips and both of the audio sources. So we're going to create the audio sources. And we are going to disable play on awake. And we're going to leave it as it is. Then we're going to create another one. Again, we're going to remove play on awake. And we're going to drag both of them. So the first one will go into the first one and the second one to the second one. So we don't really need to touch this audio source at all. We simply need to create it and reference it, and everything else is going to happen via the script. But we do need these sounds. Now I cannot provide you the sounds that I'm going to use because they don't belong to me. They belong to other creators, although they're free to use. So I'm going to provide you links in the description for each one of these sounds, and you can go to the original website and download them. So I'm going to create a folder for our sounds to be organized. And let's also move all of these scripts to our scripts folder. We can also create a folder for our imports, the different prefabs. This is also a script. And now I'm going to download all of these sounds and I'm going to drag them into the sounds folder. Of course, you can use your own sounds as well. So we got these 6 files and I'm going to rename them because these are the original names. The effect sound is actually the correct answer. The error is for the error. The violin lose is game over screen. The ticking timer is for the timer. The menu is for the main menu. And this game music loop is for the in-game. Okay, so now it will be much simpler to understand. And all we need to do is click on the sound manager and drag these references. So timer will go to timer, wrong answer to wrong answer, main menu to main music or menu music, in-game to in-game music, game over to game over, and correct answer to correct answer. Now if we start the game, we are still not going to hear anything because although we created the sound manager, we are not calling the different methods. So now we need to go to the exact places in our code that we need to start these sounds. For the main menu music, we're going to open our main menu manager. And in the start method, we're going to reference the sound manager instance, play background music, and then we also need to reference the actual clip, menu music. And now it will play the background music when we start the main menu manager. Next, we also want to play the in-game music. So we're going to open our game manager, and over here at the start of the start new game method, we're going to call, well, let's just copy this and then replace to in-game music. Okay, so we're going to call the in-game music and we're simply going to start it. But of course, we also need to stop the previous music. So instance, stop background music, and this will stop the previous menu music and will start this new music. Okay, so if we go to the stop background music, it will simply check if the source is not null, it's going to stop it. Now we also want to have sound effects for the correct and wrong answer. So we're going to open the question manager, and over here inside the submit answer method, we're going to play these sounds, sound manager, instance, play correct answer. And we don't need to provide it with the clip because the clip is already inside. And then over here, sound manager instance, play wrong answer. Next, we also want to add sound to our timer, but we don't want to play it the entire duration. We only want to play it when the timer is about to expire. So this will be some kind of warning for the player. So before we check if the timer is expired, we're going to have a condition. If the time remaining is smaller or equals 3, and if the music of the timer is playing, because we don't want to play the sound over and over. We want to play it once, the entire duration. So we're going to create some kind of bool, playing timer music or sound is playing timer sound. So this will be one of the conditions. So if this is false, if it's not playing, then we're going to play it. So sound manager instance play timer sound effect. And we also want to set the play is playing to true, so it will know that it's already playing. And because we wanted to only play during these 3 seconds, I also took the actual file, the music file for the timer, and I imported it into Audacity, which is a free sound editing software. And then I simply made this into a 3-second clip. And this way it will play exactly when we have 3 seconds left, and then it will stop. But of course you can make it longer than 3 seconds. So when the timer reaches 5 seconds, or maybe you want the entire duration, so you can simply set the entire duration or use this variable for the entire duration. But we're going to start this sound effect only when there are 3 seconds left. Now we can run the game and check if everything is working. So we have the main menu music, and now if we start a new game, we have the in-game music. Now the timer doesn't have any sounds, but if we reach 3 seconds, we can have this timer sound. Now we also have the correct answer sound and the wrong answer. Of course, you can also add colors to it, maybe in the future. And of course, you can also add sounds for things that we still did not add, for example, when a round is over. Now we see that the game over music was not played, and this in-game music is still playing. So this is something we forgot, and we simply go to the game over manager, and over here at the start, we are going to sound manager instance stop background music. So we're stopping all background music, and we're going to play the game over effect. Now again, and now we have this game over sound effect. Now if we go back to the game or to the main menu, it should also start the sounds. Let's see if it works. If we go to the main menu, it starts the sound, so now we can continue to the game. So everything is working. If we go to the game again, it's working. And it seems like everything is working. So of course you can add more sounds for other things. You can maybe add sounds for when we go to other menus, for example, for the leaderboards or options. You can also add a sound for the game over screen. So maybe if the player has beaten his high score, you can have some kind of happy music and say congratulations. But if the player did not beat the high score, you can have this sad music. So you can do a lot of things other than that. So that's all for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to add the options screen. We're going to add some basic settings. Of course, you can add any settings that you want. And for this kind of app, we don't really need a lot of settings, but we're going to also add this. And again, if you want me to create a video about Audacity or any other things that you want me to add later when we're done with the series, let me know in the comments. Also, please subscribe. Again, it will help me a lot. It will also keep you updated. So, I'll see you in the next episode.